People in AA, when you travel, we build like friendships and whatever. So I have a lot of friends in that area, Boynton Beach and Delray Beach, in the program. But that doesn't mean that's even for me, it's a little high for my pay grade, uh, my retirement fund. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going to actually land, but that's the area, general area. So might even be
It's
just Miami, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird because like I'm a native New Yorker too. I'm originally from Rockland County, and it's so like I'm a New Yorker by heart. I'll always be a New Yorker. Like I'm not gonna shed that away from myself, but I've kind of reached a point where I'm kind of veering away from the state in the sense where it's just it's like that. Sorry to use this reference. It's like that man that is drunk as fuck in the driver's seat and decides to make a left turn going the wrong way. And you're like, yo, you're going to hit somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And then like 2 minutes later, you can hear, bah!
Yep.
Fuck, you got four people dead.
You're not offending me. And I'm like you. I was born and bred here. I was born in Manhattan. And I grew up on Long Island, and I did a little stint out west. My dad was drafted into the Vietnam War back in the 70s or early 60s, late 60s, 70s. So we did the family had to go over there for a couple of years while he did his, but he didn't go to war, but he was stationed in Fort Huachuca, Arizona. So we lived there. So I got to see a little bit of the Southwest for like 4 or 5 years growing up. Beautiful. That would be my second choice if I didn't retire. So it's either the Florida humidity or the dry Southwest. But I like the beach. So the beach I think the beach won. But yeah, no, I hear you. I'm a New Yorker, and but New York is not what it used to be, and it's changing, and it's expensive, and
I know.
No,
it's crazy, man, because we come from a place that's got so many years of history and art and musicians and filmmakers and television stars, and I mean the amount of shit. Like, man, you know what comes back to me all the time is goddamn Taxi. Danny DeVito, the TV show that came out in the late 70s. That scene on the Brooklyn Bridge, man, like, I've been on that bridge so many times, and it just, I don't know, it's weird. You kind of like walk past it, but at the same time, it kind of stings. Because, it didn't have to go this way. There were so many ways of correcting this, like, for the past 35 years. Nobody gave a shit.
The politicians didn't give a shit.
Sorry, the politicians didn't give a shit.
There's a lot of people here that are trying to make New York. You know what? And I'm not really big on politics in my podcast world, so I try to stay away. I try to stay away from it. I don't talk politics. So, but I'll just say this: after 9/11, that's when everybody banded together. All the American flags came out, and everybody was like, "Oh no, no, no!" And that lasted a couple of years until about maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, and then it seems like a whole new generation came up, and they didn't even know about 9/11. There are kids walking around today that weren't born for I was 40 years old. I watched it happen, but
it's too.
Yeah. But there are people who don't even remember that. So anyway, politics aside, there are people who are trying to change New York, and power to them. I'm okay with that. So
no, you know what?
Because I'm not going to be here.
No, it's true. And the thing about it is, right, like, politics aside, what we're talking about is communities. We're talking about a place where you've had these communities that have been growing for many, 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 many. I mean, for Christ's sakes, there's literally a place called Greenwich Village, okay,
Mm-hmm.
which has been an epicenter for the past 78 years of arts in New York City. You know, there's places in Long Island, like, for example, Long Island Sound, that has some of the most historical houses still up
Yep. Mm-hmm.
in, you know, so there's that, there's a lot of bad and, the man, quote unquote, that have done a lot of horrible shit. But it's also about the heart. It's where what comes after this. Because now what's happening is if all of these people are leaving and going to other places, is it that New York is at its home base, right? Or is it now no longer at home base? It's now outsourced. It's in other places across the United States.
I think what happened was after COVID, that's when people started fleeing. So and I'm one of them. I think after COVID, I said I'm done, and this has nothing. Nobody has any control over this. Although we could get hate mail on this one, is the weather. So I I'm a I'm a like a snowbird. Like I would like the people who go to Florida for the winter and come back because we don't like the cold. So, but we're getting like this year alone, we're getting robbed of our summer. Today was the first day it was above 80 degrees. The last 8 weekends in a row in New York, it has been raining and cold and damp. And it is already the third week in June. So we're like getting robbed of our summer. And I live 6 blocks from the beach. And I haven't been to the beach yet. Today, I just got back from pickleball. And I'd be at the beach tomorrow, but I got two podcast recordings tomorrow. The bottom line of what I'm getting at is that even the weather has changed up in New York. And there's no one to point the finger at, except of course the people are going to point the finger at global warming.
Oh, of course.
And that's whatever. I'm out of New York.
No, and completely forgetting the fact, like, so for me, I've been living down here for South Florida for about 3 years. I'm currently in school and thinking of relocating to Colorado. And when you deal with places that are in higher elevation, specifically like above sea level, especially like Rocky Mountains, kind of, that you get used to a very different environment. And I try explaining this to people, especially people out here in South Florida, like they have zero understanding of what cold is. I mean, because they live in paradise 365 days a year.
Days a year, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they don't understand what it is like for people like even living out in the, like, we're talking about Colorado, like even, for example, people living out in Aspen where you got 12 inches of snow outside your freaking door.
What's drawing you to Colorado?
Primarily culture right now. I'm very much like a libertarian and a hippie at heart, and I'm in the automotive industry, and I'm like trying to find my place, like almost
there's
like
some of that in Arizona and New Mexico, so which is not that cold. So, but I'm just, I just
no. I know where you're coming from, man. Well, for me, it's primarily because I'm in the German automotive industry. You're going to be working for BMW.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
The West Coast, like Midwest, West Coast, right now is having a little bit of a surge. So I'm kind of like one of those. It's like like one of those gold miners. You're like, let me jump on the bandwagon. Let me see what's going on.
You gotta follow the money, man.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to. No, I get it.
I know.
I get it. It's kind of why I'm stuck here in New York. I have a full-time day job that pays the bills, and it's putting money into my retirement. And the podcasting, which we'll get into when you want, but my podcasting career started, but that's not, I can't live off that right now. And so I got to follow the money. The money is in New York right now. That's where you get so I'm an IT guy. That's my day job. I'm an IT director. I will not get paid the same salary that I'm getting paid here that I will get paid in Florida doing the same job.
No,
not even close. So yeah,
and that's
kind of why I'm stuck here.
And then, by the way, it's the same thing for me because I in the automotive industry, I'm more geared towards, you're familiar with electronics, electrical systems for vehicles. And that's kind of the direction that I want to go. To your point, too, it's like we're out here in South Florida. There's just not enough money for this. So I have options like North Carolina, Colorado, Texas. These are places that are paying a lot more for what I'm looking for, what I can offer. And you almost put yourself in a box. It's like I want to be free, like I want to give myself options, but at the same time, you're like restricted from reality. It's like, hey, no, you can't. I hate that shit, man.
Yep. Yeah. No, I'm stuck here until I'm looking. I got my LinkedIn and I got a bunch of other things, and I got some family down there looking for work for me. But the salaries that I'm seeing coming in for the same type of work that I'm doing are 25, 30, 40% less than what I'm making now. And I'm like, I can't live on that, not comfortably anyway. So,
you know what? To your point with podcasting, right? There is a way where for a lot of podcasters, they turn this into their main financial paycheck. Like this is what they're getting paid every single month. But for some podcasters, sometimes being able to have that side hustle or your main gig to be able to stay afloat is kind of just a reality, and to be able to balance both out. I want to hear like your own side of this. I've heard this from many, including myself. It is not easy. It is really, really hard to balance those two things out.
Dave, if I had any idea what I was getting myself into 3 years ago, so I'll break it down real quickly. So 3 years ago, I came out of a heartbreak relationship. Like she broke my heart, cheated on me, blah, blah, blah. And at the time, it was serious. It was really bad. It took this man down to his knees, and I was down and out for like 3 to 6 months, depressed, and I walked around in circles. And my boss was like, "What's wrong with you?" Anyway, I pulled myself up, and because I have a background in IT, background in voiceovers, I used to do voiceovers. I was a DJ in college, and I can give you some other lists. I got into podcasting because I also did work at some radio stations. So it kind of just said, hey, I need to go on and tell my story. So I did like what a lot of people do. I jumped on Amazon and I said, give me a podcast kit. You go pick me one of those. And next day I had this thing in front of me. And that was 3 years ago. Today, of course, it is now, I have 3 podcasts, and I'm an executive producer of 3 separate podcasts. And one of them I have a team working on. So the bottom line is I expanded. I went from, one Amazon mic, which I don't use anymore, but it's over here. I've upgraded, but the bottom line is that you need a team of. I love my Mac.
It's okay. We need special effects for anybody that's watching this. Please.
There's a way to turn it off, but every recording I do, you need a team of people. And I have a day like you. I'm guessing you have a day job working in the automotive industry. You got to come home. Yeah, I got to race home at 6 o'clock at night, eat something if I can, to have a 6:30 recording. I have 4 months of recordings booked in the can. Recorded already in the can, and that's just for one podcast. So tomorrow, I have 3 recordings all day for the second podcast, and blah blah blah. I give you a whole lineup of I'm so booked and overbooked, and I'm starting to now get advertising. I'm starting to get sponsorships, but it took 3.5 years of me doing this all by myself. I did have a little bit of help. I had a few outsiders. I had to hire a few people. I have a co-host on one of the other podcasts. She does a lot of work for me, but it's a lot of work. I don't think people really understand what goes behind in the podcast scene, and I didn't understand what went on behind the podcast. I thought putting up a microphone and going to Apple and uploading it and saying done. No, it's not how it works. No, not if you want to succeed. I mean, if you want to just throw something up there, sure. But if you want to be heard and be seen and get sponsorship and be on the top 500 or top 100 or get listed somewhere. No, you gotta
you gotta
you gotta
hustle.
work at it.
And it's when you step into a room and you're talking right across from somebody and they treat it as a hostile environment. And that's when you realize, especially when you're hosting a podcast and when you're trying to have a conversation with somebody, not always everything goes your way. And I think that's what comes with it too. It's not just being an artist. It's not just being about a podcast or a creator, whatever it may be. But it's being able to understand that every single obstacle, every single failure, every single scenario that you run into is giving you the tools and the lessons that you could use to not make the same mistakes twice.
So earlier today, and I'm going to let the audience know a little bit behind the scenes of what goes on in podcasting. So Dave emailed me this morning just to confirm, right, for our 3:00, and that's common. So podcasters often confirm the day before, whatever. And in that email, it will say, these are, here's the link to the studio. And sometimes they will give you whatever list that they would like you to, I can't think of the word. You gave me a list. You said, please come with a pair of headphones, and please, have a microphone and have a desktop. And I have the same thing. So in my calendar booking, when I have guests book so they can self book, it says, please do not use a cell phone. Please show up with headphones. Please come up with a microphone. That's why when I answered you, I was so happy that you said that. And I was so proud to answer you saying, hey, Dave, I got you covered because I got all of that. Because a lot of the guests and in some of the podcasts, that the episodes that I do, there's some guests that come on that aren't professionals. They're one of my podcasts is about cults. So they're cult survivors. These people don't have the equipment. They don't have the hardware. They don't have a Shure microphone. They don't have, an iMac and
even the
technical
software
stuff
and the stuff that comes by, like even the basic things, man. Like this, like, can you change your microphone? What do you mean? The menu on the top. What menu? The one on the top.
Yeah.
And you could hear your own voice, and you're like,
no,
just follow my.
Yeah.
No.
No. And then when you record and you go to edit later, you have all these issues with your voice is clear, like mine will be nice and loud, my guest will be somewhere like off in the distance, and it's and the only thing I will say, thank God to, I'm not going to give them props, so I'm not going to mention the platform I use, which I told you who I use, because I'm having a lot of problems with them. So I'm not going to give them props, but they do have an AI filter, which you can put pretty much any recording through and they will clean it up. And they've been doing a pretty good job at it, but I need it almost every week. So when I record a guest, I have to put it through an AI cleanup, and it just to make it sound listenable. And I feel like some of us independent, like our
indie podcasters, yeah, we are. We're
consider us indie podcasters, right? We have to deal with this crap. I want a studio. I would love a Joe Rogan studio. I would love a studio where I can go in and I have professional equipment, and my guest and I can be sitting across each other and have a conversation and not have to deal with these problems.
Is, man, here's the deal. Like, people don't get this. Joe Rogan, when he started his podcast, he was rich. This man has had. He was already a celebrity. He had money.
Yeah.
Tim Dillon is the same thing. You want to throw like, Theo Vaughn came. Theo Vaughn had money before he had his podcast up and running. You know what I mean? So, to your point, as indie podcasters, we are limited because of finances, and we're also limited in the fact that we don't have a media infrastructure behind us. I can't just call up some producer right now to fix my problems. It's just not. It's not real.
No. And if you could, you're going to pay out of your pocket, because in the beginning there was a lot that I wanted help with. So like I said before, it's very easy to record a podcast and Spotify or depending on whatever platform. Like I have an iMac, I
Same.
use GarageBand, but whatever. Okay, good. Sometimes it's easier to throw a podcast together. It's when you want to promote that podcast, so putting it up on social media or getting it out there on whatever, let's say Facebook, TikTok, whatever, or however you promote it,
Some
because there's
second
so
Rumble.
many ways to
Yeah.
promote it. You need right. You could be
Yeah.
YouTube, exactly. It could be
stuff.
Twitch. It could be. You need you need a team of people to help you. I don't have. Thank God for ChatGPT. It came along just at the right time because now I can just throw in some artwork in there, and I can just say, "Hey, ChatGPT, this is what I need." In the next 3 hours, I will need a promo for this. I need an advertising for blah blah blah, and it'll get done. But literally 2 years ago, I didn't have that. So I was hiring people off of Fiverr. I was all the that app Fiverr, and even then I was very not what's the word? I wasn't happy that I had to deal with somebody
There's a lot of
3,000 miles away.
miscommunication back and forth, like because of language and just
language barrier.
Yeah.
There's time differences.
A lot of stuff.
And I ended up finding a woman who was a single mom down in Louisiana who was looking for extra money, and she happened to be a graphic artist, and we worked out a deal. But I had to shell this money out of my own pocket because I needed someone to put together these promos for me, and while she did a great job, this was. If you're going to go into podcasting, you got to have some sort of a bank account with something in it. Take out a small loan. You're going to need it if you really, unless you have no day job and you have enough time on your schedule to sit there from morning and night to work on cover art and promos and editing and
layout. I mean,
I just spent 3 hours in the sun playing pickleball.
No, it's okay,
so my
man.
brain's a little fried right now.
I've been working on my podcast since the morning, man. I did.
Yeah,
same.
I started at 9 o'clock this morning. Yep.
I've scheduled out 6 episodes so far, and I've just done the audio. I haven't even done the video yet. I started at 9 a.m.
Yeah, see?
And right now, what time it is? It's 3:24.
And I thought I had so I have an episode ready to drop tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for one of my other shows, and my co-host emailed me at like 10 o'clock this morning. She goes, "You have the wrong episode number on the cover art," and that was my
worst.
Oh yeah, and I'm like, I don't have time because I had to run out the door. But thankfully, I got home tonight and I was able to fix that. But it's like you never know. At the last minute, something comes up that's wrong, and you can't put it up the way it is. So, but that was between me and ChatGPT because obviously I fed ChatGPT the wrong information. So that has been since fixed. Anyway, the bottom line is podcasting is not. If people are looking to get into it, it's not.
No, it's not
easy. It's a passion. It's what's that word? Passion of
passion of the arts.
You know what?
Oh, I know. Labor of love. Okay.
Labor of love. That's what I'm looking at.
You know what though?
Labor of love.
I like this because it's kind of giving an insider of like what goes behind to making podcasts like these. But I think that to your point, even about a labor of love, like the reason why I do this, and I'm sure you have your reasoning too, is there is a love to this. There is this connection of being able to tell stories, to be able to connect, collaborate. I don't know. It's almost like you're getting your own therapy sessions that you're paying for, but actually benefiting from. And I mean that in the sweetest way possible.
Oh, if it wasn't for my podcast, that I started 3 years ago. So the first one I started was about dating and relationships because of the bad relationship that I had just come out of. I was ready to jump off a bridge. I was seriously suicidal, and if it wasn't for my sponsor and to the folks that we said at the beginning, I'm in recovery, so I have a good support system surrounding me. And if it wasn't for them that pushed me into like you're gonna be okay, like, because I put a lot of weight into, I have codependency issues. When you're an alcoholic or an addict, you tend to be codependent as well. So when this woman cheated on me and left me, and I was a wreck because I allowed this to happen to me. Anyway, putting the podcast together and working through it for the next year and a half was so therapeutic for me. Because number one, I'm getting free advice. So think about it. I have a podcast, and you probably have the same thing. Your guests that you can invite on can be psychiatrists and psychologists and coaches and
Psychics.
life coach, and uh, psychic. Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that because I happen to be a tarot card reader. They can come on and you can interview them and they will, believe it or not. I had a woman on the other night from uh, Ask Women. So Marnie and I don't know if you know Marnie and Kristen, but they're from the Ask Women podcast, and she came on to do her promotion about her. She's got something where she coaches men for dating.
And beware.
And she wanted to know why I never went in for coaching. And I said, I don't need a coach. Every week I got a free coach come on my podcast and tell me how to. I have a dating podcast, which tells men and women how to go out and navigate today's modern dating culture. And I have free advice every week, as in the form of a guest, right? So I don't need to pay for
and especially when you're making a dating podcast. Look, it's one of those podcasts that are hit or miss, which means it either comes off as being too fake, or it either comes off as being blunt and to the point and honest, right? Because how else are you supposed to make a dating podcast? You can't just be like, well, hey, no, get to the fucking point. What's the point? So,
yeah.
The truth is that men and women have different perspectives when it comes to dating. Correct me if I'm wrong. And to have this disillusionment that men have to form to women's narratives and women have to form to male narrative. Come on. You got to have that balance.
No.
Balance.
The world of dating has changed dramatically.
26.
Dave, I don't know how old you are, but I can take a wild guess. How much? Okay. Oh, Jesus. Okay. All right. So you come from the era where cell phones and dating apps were like, so you never knew what it was like to date before dating apps and stuff. So I come from the world where when I grew up, I had to date women from, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have dating. Match.com, eHarmony,
when
all
I was
that crap.
growing
We
up,
didn't have any of that shit. You wanted to date a woman, you had to go up and ask her out, and you had to like follow up and then go home and call her and hope that her father didn't answer the phone. And so, hey, can I speak to Jennifer? And he would be like, who's this? And so you had to get through the dad firewall before you get to talk. Today you don't have that, right? You could pick up the phone, and so the woman that you meet anywhere, if I don't know, when you're on the beach, you meet somebody, you get her phone number, you go home and text her that night, whatever. You don't have to deal with that. The whole different world today. People don't see the difference from what many of us, and I'm going to put myself, because I'm in the older generation. What we went through years ago was so much easier than it is today. Today, there's an overwhelming majority of people who had the fear, the FOMO, fear of missing out. They have the fear of, what's the exact term? It's the fear of missing out on more. So if I'm going through my swiping and I'm looking at my Bumble app or something, and I see somebody and I go on a date with them, but there might be somebody better than this person. What's the word? There was somebody that came on the other day. It was FOBO. It was fear of better options. Fear of better. I have a better option than what I'm dating now. Why? Because Bumble tells me that I have 100 other men who like me. So I'm dating this guy. He's cute and he's got a decent job and he's got a nice car, but I could probably do better. And so I'm going to go back on Bumble and find something better. And it's called fear of FOBO, fear of I can do better,
Yeah.
whatever. And it's killing the dating industry.
It's
It really
I mean,
is.
it's weird for me, right? Because I am young, but at the same time, like I grew up in a Jewish cult in New York, and I left when I was about 17.
Seriously?
I was in the Jewish cult.
You were in a
the one
cult?
that was in Muncie.
All right, I have to get you on my own. You have a cult podcast, Dave. One of my podcasts is Cultimatum. It's all about
Okay.
cults. We'll
So,
talk after. Oh God.
When I, and I'm also gay, and when I entered out into the real world, like I grew up in a generation where we were starting to get hit with this new technology and stuff. I remember when we started having social media, like around elementary school, was very niche and very new. And I just remember from a young age, even, going like living on the other side of the Hudson River and then coming into the city, I interacted with people just by meeting people in high school and school. I would text people, but a lot of the times I would just meet people because I was around other people. It was very much like you were constantly having to be social. And then when reality in the real world hits you, and then everybody's going to more of this digital world, and then we hit 2020, and then everything kind of goes virtual. You just
But you had help. You in your generation. Just and
Yeah.
I'm hetero, but I'm gay friendly. You had help. You have Grinder. You have. I just looked up all the stuff, all the gay dating apps. You got
Oh, there's a
Scruff.
lot.
I mean,
There's
I
a
don't have
lot.
to read them all off. You know what they are, but you can go on but just think of the people 20 years ago that were in the closet or going through high school who got bullied because um, they dressed a certain way or they looked a certain way or they didn't have a girlfriend for the prom, and there was a rumor that I mean, tell me, did you have a rough high school, grammar school?
It wasn't easy. I mean, I was still trying to figure out who I was, and the thing is, like growing up in that environment, it's so taboo. It's so like in the form of abomination. You don't talk about it. So
Right.
going through high school and then being bullied
You
and
don't
being
talk
called
about it.
faggot and being called ladyboy and all this shit, and like you're confused in your own head, and you're like, why are people calling me this? Am I this? Am I that? You know, it it does something to your mind where you don't know where you fit. It's like, do I fit here? Do I fit here? Or do I go here? Where the hell do I go?
Are you going to? I understand there's my son. I have three sons, and my youngest son has a couple of gay friends, and he just went to Florida yesterday, and there's a gay parade going on this week. Okay,
They have
he
one
went
in,
down there for that
yeah, they have
to
one in
support
Wilton
his
Manors.
friends.
They have, it's amazing. They have pride parades all over the country, and some of them, especially like the ones in Wilton Manors, are kind of geared towards giving back towards the community. So
Is that
Tampa
up
would be
towards
on the
Tampa?
West Coast. Wilton Manors is in Broward County, so it's like going down from Boca, going towards Miami.
Okay, because I just know last night he took a plane from JFK to Tampa, and he's going this
Oh,
week to
yeah.
a gay pride parade
They
in
they
Tampa
have they
or
have them
the
all
general
over the
vicinity.
state. I mean, it's like, but I mean, you're right though. When we look at the digital landscape right now, okay, when it comes to dating, we are looking at where a lot of people are going towards that with online dating. And like we mentioned, there's a lot of options for both hetero and homo, like in all different avenues. Like you can find an app that fits even down to your even like your own fetish. Like I kid you not, there's probably one out there just for that. There is.
Oh,
Yeah.
there is. Trust me.
So
I've
you
seen them.
then like enter into a world, right, where for your case, you grow up in one environment, or if you start exploring, you start to see different types of people. Okay, so then you kind of get an idea of your dating. You start maybe dating people in other places. To then in a generation now where somebody could literally sit on their ass on a freaking couch and be in like Kansas City out of all places and start messaging this gal from Serbia.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's like what, 30 years? 30 years of history between those two realities?
Oh, and I had a guy on my show not too long ago, about it maybe, I don't know, a year ago, that he was trying to get men to come on to the. So Ukraine got whatever the war with Putin and whatever's going on over there. A lot of the women are fleeing Ukraine, and so they're going into Poland. So some guy got smart, and he wants to get the women out of Poland. So he created a website. He wants American men to go over and save the Ukrainian women and bring them to America and marry them. It's some wacky thing he's got going on, and I shouldn't say wacky.
He might be in Vermin Supreme's, political, like presidential cabinet. Wouldn't be surprised.
All I know is that he was trying to get American men to go over to Europe to marry the Ukrainian and Polish, and so it's just funny you mentioned Serbia. So, but you're right. There was a time back in the let's just say 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, men were going around the world finding women and then bringing them back to America as their wives, Asian and all different ethnicities. Now they're staying there. They're going to Tokyo. They're going to the Philippines, and then they live there. They're giving up America. Whatever this again, let's not get into politics.
Let's keep it artsy,
Trump
classy,
in the office,
a little gritty, noir. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll try to keep it. He's driving people out of the country, and they are going. So I even thought about it. For a while, because I've been single for a couple of years, and I've been thinking about, hey, you know what? I got a couple of bucks that I can. There's a couple of gals in Portugal that I've been talking to. Cute women. I speak a little Spanish, even though Portuguese is not the same as Spanish. But I could go there and live in Portugal. Get out of America, and the money that I have now will go a lot further in Portugal.
Want to know
so
something?
I gave it some
I have
thought.
Portuguese citizenship.
But
so
there you go. Is that because
it's because of Sephardic
your parents?
ancestry? So my family were ones that were affected by the Inquisition.
Okay.
And back then it was a part of Spain, but now it's a part of Portugal. So I didn't fall under the Spain's, heritage package. I fell under the Portuguese. So I have a Portuguese. Yep. Like, look, I'm one of those that I love America and I love being American, and I'm very proud to come from an immigrant family. But at the same time, it's like I'm gonna keep my EU citizenship, just in case. Because if shit hits the wall, I'm out. I'm going online, booking that flight to Lisbon. I'm checking up apartments. I'm out. I'm not trying to be a heretic or an apocalyptic person.
Let me tell you something. The shit is going to hit the wall. So just be prepared. We got 2 more years of this guy. So 3 maybe. What am I talking about? He just got into office. But yeah, go to Portugal, man. It's a beautiful country, and I'm giving it some thought myself. Either that or Costa Rica. I'd like to go down to Costa Rica. That's a
women
beautiful
are gorgeous
country.
there, from what I heard.
I got some family down there.
I heard Costa Rican women are gorgeous.
Say again?
From what I've heard. I'm just saying.
I I wouldn't know because I haven't I haven't had the pleasure, but I do have family that lives there, and they've invited me to come down there. So, and I happen to have a thing for
same.
Latinas. So,
No, I'm not Latino.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish I was Latino, but nope, just Middle Eastern. Nope. You get what you get. That's it. Plain and simple.
So when you say you have a thing for Latino, you mean Latino men?
Okay. And
yeah, of course.
Deeper down. Listen, we got to go deeper down into the Amazon.
Clarifying
okay,
that.
like we got to go a little native. All right, we got to go a little native.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But you know what? Seriously though, for me, I try to be able to hold on to this philosophy, which is what makes us strong, especially coming from a place that is built around immigration, is being able to hold true with your own community. You know, whether you're raising a family or whether you're just working or you connect with people locally, I think there's something really incredible about that. I find it so disheartening when you have everything gets spread over our entire country, especially when we have like 50 states. It's like each place holds their own thing. It's like you come to a new place, try to be a part of that community. Try to get to know the people there. Maybe, like in our case, like I like to get to know the artist. Get to know what kind of artsy things over there. You know, maybe like the bar that's running karaoke, or maybe that music store that has a place where they teach people and they have an open small stage. I don't know. Those kind of things, you know, because that deeply is what, quote unquote, is America, or what it should be. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. So, before I came on, I did obviously, which a lot of podcasters should do. If you're a guest on somebody else's podcast, you do listen to their podcast and you do a little research on it. Your podcast focuses on creativity and the artistry world, right? The artistic world. So, I'm imagining that's literally the world of art, like
be anything,
paintings or, but is content creation?
I think 100%. It's a way of being able to express yourself. You know. Yeah.
It's a different type of art, right? It's art. Like the art form. So if I drew something and whatever it was, and I hang it up on the thing, and then they have in Manhattan they have this thing like they call it a gallery, and you go in there and 50,000 people go there and they look at it. It's the artist's interpretation of his expression of something. So he sees something or he wants to get something out of his mind, and he will spend hours or days painting something, and then they throw it up on the wall. It's a form of expression for the artist. And this has been going on since the year of days of Van Gogh and the Renaissance. But now today we have this whole new digital platform called content creation, where I got to be very careful.
Please piss them off. Piss off the people. I'm begging you. But getting on my hands and knees.
Great. The women and the guys who open up a TikTok account and all they do all day long is do this. You know, they hold the cell phone up and they take pictures, or they talk into it, or they try on clothes. You know, so I don't think content creators or content influencers, people who now, if you get hired by a company to show off their new line of clothes, that's one thing. That's not content creation. I think that's marketing, promotion. But there are people out there who are trying to make it by going viral, by just creating things online. Sometimes it's funny. I see some funny stuff online, and I see husband and wives trying to make it like funny stuff going on. But I'm just curious, do you think some of the content I've seen digital, this is the weird part, in coming out of China or coming out of the Asian world, I scroll through TikTok and I come across a really pretty porcelain doll looking Asian woman. And all she's doing, she's live, and all she's doing is reading like the chats, the people are sending her a kiss. What is that? But it's content created. Like he's laughing. He's laughing. What the fuck is that? Like so. I don't know. I think the world of art is lost, and we need to bring it back to what
Yeah.
it used to be. And I think we were talking about going over to Europe. People need to go over to Europe and see what art really looks like. I know there's some good art in America, but you got to go over to Italy and to France and to Germany and see and architecture and the arts of some of the chapels and the paintings and the museums they have over there. That's art. That's art. What's coming out on digital social media is this content creation.
Yeah.
Unless you're a graphic artist and you're really, really good at it.
No, I totally agree with you, man. Like, look, there are plenty of people that post about going to even Rome in Italy. And I've been to Rome. And when you're physically there and you get to experience it, yes, especially in cities like Rome, you're going to run into a lot of, pissy people, not the nicest, but generally Italians are very sweet people. Even though they don't speak fluent English, they try to get to know you. They ask you questions. It's a different environment. I think that more Americans should experience leaving this country for maybe a week, maybe 2 months, just to get outside of your head. I'll tell you honestly, me being able to go to different places and living outside of this country, it has helped me tremendously. Because then you start to appreciate things. Like what I said earlier about being able to appreciate the fact that we have communities here.
I agree, and then I just realized that there's another form of art that we haven't even brought up, and you and I are sporting it. We're both covered in tattoos, and that's your expression of art, and it's the tattoo artist's expression of art, and I think that's art in itself, and that's something that has come of age. Tattoos have been around for thousands of years. It was back in the days of the Mayans and
Stick and
whatever,
poke tattoos.
and they would
Yeah.
use their chisels, yeah. And then of course you didn't get a tattoo for until the 1950s and 60s, where the military were the men in the military, but it wasn't until like 80s and 90s, my era, where my first tattoo I got when I was 1982. Anyway, the point I'm getting at is that I think now tattoo parlors have become, they're everywhere now, just like this TikTok shit that I'm talking about. You can find a content creator everywhere. But tattoo parlors, I think, are cool. I think I can go spend a whole day in there and look at what these guys are coming up with.
It's how
the mind is limitless.
Utilize things. And that's something that I've learned, even in the short period that I've been around, which is where, okay, I was raised where tattoos are viewed as being a sin. So as I got older and, I kind of treat them as being sacred. Like every single one of tattoos that I have on my body, they all have a different meaning and a purpose. So when people ask me like, hey, what is that? I'm able to like say like, oh, I got this because of, they hold a story and they represent who I am as a person. So when the question comes up, well, what happens when you're 70? Well, guess what? I'm going to be 70 with freaking Stitch on my arm, and I'm okay with that. See what I mean?
Dave?
Yeah.
I'm 65, and I got my first tattoo at 30, and even though I can't show it to you because it's on my back, but that one, and which is the Southwest. So you see the cactus. I told you earlier that if it wasn't Florida, I'd like to go to the Southwest. Well, there's the Southwest. There's a picture of the entire scenery of the Southwest. And then I got a whole thing going on here of The Conjuring, which is the whole story. I'm a big Annabelle. I'm into The Conjuring
movie series.
Oh, well, there she is.
Damn.
There's Annabelle. Yeah. But these were done 10, 15 years ago, and
great.
they're holding up pretty well.
I mean, it's a little bit, but it's good.
You take care of it. Well, because I sit in the sun, which I'm not supposed to do. But as long as you take care of it and you put your lotions on and you put your
All your
SPF
chemicals.
50s or hundreds and or just don't go in the sun,
I mean, the
they'll
Adams
last.
family last,
They'll
even
last.
though they didn't go out into the sun. So
Yeah.
there's that. No, but you know what though? We we live in an era where art has changed, and you know you can kind of call anybody a content creator, even though like they're not really doing shit. But I think it's being able to fish out the genuine, the honest, the real, the raw. That stuff does exist. You just have to maybe dig a little harder. It's a little harder to find, but we are out here. We are out here screaming our goddamn lungs, even though they're full of tar and shit.
Yeah, I was just curious whether content creation is considered art. I don't think so, because what I'm seeing on content creation, art is what you and I are wearing on our skin. Art is when you walk into a gallery. Art, even graffiti. You go to the hood,
Yeah,
and
those
you see
murals. Oh
under
my
the
god.
59th Street Bridge or whatever bridge,
Beautiful.
the murals.
It
Those
is.
are beautiful. That's art. Even though it's graffiti and it was done by probably a gang, MS-13, it's
You got
still
some good artists over
nice.
there cutting
Yes.
some stuff. Those blade skills are paying off.
but it but to go buy a can of spray paint and then spend doing this at nighttime, probably because you don't want to get caught or whatever, it's art. It's an expression. It's a form of expression, and I think that's what art really is. I don't know. I just think what I'm seeing on TikTok and Instagram and it's just silly.
It
Some
is,
of the
but you
stuff
know what?
that they're coming up with.
On the other side of it is
uh,
right. When content creation, you do have comedians. I'm going to use this as an example. There are many comedians that use it as an outlet for their own art. You know, where I've seen this on TikTok, where you have these somewhat famous comedians where they'll post either a new bit that they're working on, or there'll be a video of them collaborating with another artist, or them kind of going through a routine, or maybe posting one of their specials. It is a form of content creation, right? They're not taking those selfies and posting, hey, what's going on in my life every single day. They're not. They are putting out valuable content.
right.
So that is the issue, especially with living in the digital age. It's like almost where the waters have become muddy. It's like what becomes art and what becomes just fake narration, or even agenda, or even to the levels of propaganda. Which, let's be honest, some of this shit is propaganda at its highest level.
Oh, uh, yes. There's a lot of art that's propaganda.
You don't know what's real. That's the issue too, because when you find out that most of the people that are responding and commenting, right, like you were saying to that porcelain woman that's posting that live, who knows who she's responding to? They could be all bots.
I
I don't
swear.
even, yeah.
Yeah, it could be. But I go scroll through this and I see this woman, and she's a beautiful, and sometimes I wonder if they're even of age, but they look like porcelain dolls because they're so, I don't know if they're going through filters or whatever. And besides Latinas, I think Asian women are beautiful too. But these women are just staring into the camera, reading the whatever the people are, because it says to me live, and I can't watch more than like 30 seconds because I'm like, what am I watching? Because she's either speaking in her native language or she's speaking in English, but there's nothing. I don't know about you, but we just talked about, you have a day job and then our night jobs are podcasting. I don't, when I go through my social media, I'm looking for podcast guests or podcast more like information about what, maybe I'm researching something for my episodes. I don't have time to look at porcelain Asian dolls coming over from China that could be, which is another whole thing. Could
Market
be
sell.
human trafficking. which we didn't even get into, because one of my podcasts is about cults and human trafficking. I don't know if these guys have these women. They shove them in front of the
No,
camera.
but you
And
know what, though?
anyway,
It
that's
is
a
a
whole
real
nother topic.
reality
So,
that
but
people do not understand of, again, living in a digital age, is that this idea of abolishment of pure slavery across the entire planet, including human trafficking and kidnapping and all of these things, it is real. Okay, I come from a community where they do this to families. They will kidnap families and keep them within the community so that the parent that's quote unquote not religious can't have any legal rights to their kids. Okay, I know somebody personally that's going through this right now, and I'm not trying to mention any names. Like, her son needs to go through basically, like, what do you call it, amendment. There's a legal term for it, like, anyway. And you're in a stepping point where you say to yourself, right, we live in a modern society. We don't live in the 1800s or the early 1900s anymore. But yet there is behavior and mentality and crime and corruption that very much is like what we were dealing with 150 years ago. I just look.
And what's interesting, just 2 days ago was Juneteenth, June 19th, which was the celebration of the Emancipation Proclamation, which is when they freed the slaves.
But not in Africa.
Back in 18 something, whatever it was. I don't know my history that well.
Only in America.
But not in Africa, only in America. And it was just the African slaves. You're right. There's still human trafficking going on in America and all across the world. And my other podcast, we cover that deeply, human trafficking, because it's real, and it's children and it's adults, and it's a multi-billion-dollar business.
Look,
so
we like to fantasize, right? Back in the 70s, you had the pimp era. Those pimps with the big feather hats and the purple, low tuxedos with the lowriders. That shit has turned into really sophisticated people that own a lot of vans, know a lot of people, and know a lot of connections. So, I was like, oh my God, how could you possibly kidnap? Trust me, man. Okay, you live in New York, all right? It's very easy to kidnap somebody in New York City. It's just, you're walking down, la 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 la, just van goes, thing pulls out, whoosh, grabs you, throws you.
Oh, yeah. And you think it's in the movies. You see that in the movies, but it happens in real life. Yeah.
And I don't think it's a reason to get into, like, sheer heart attack paranoia and be like, oh my God. But I think it's important to know that this is real. And just being aware that these things are it's just being once. Yeah.
Dave, I don't think you talked about earlier about being a cult in Manhattan or New York when you were growing up. And the podcasts that I have, Cultimatum, is all about cults. And my co-host is a cult survivor from a cult called the House of Yahweh. And I don't think America and the politicians and the legislators and the law enforcement have any idea how bad it is out there with cults today, that they are alive and well. There is a cult in Michigan called the Twin Flames Universe. Mm-hmm. Don't know if you've heard of it. Okay, you've heard of them, right? There's crazy. A documentary on Netflix and Amazon about them. They're still going strong. And all they do is steal money from these adolescent kids, gay and straight, and tell them, we're going to find you your soulmate, but you got to pay this money and pay this money. And we've been trying, my podcast and my co-host, we've been trying to get dirt on them and bring them down and infiltrate them. We got a lot of work behind the scenes on them. And I'm not going to do too much on it because I don't want to spill the beans. But we're working on but they're online cults. This is and you might have heard about the TikTok dancers where they were stealing, telling people that they can get dancing careers. And the cult industry is alive and well, whether it's a religious cult, whether you're a Sephardic or you're brought up in like Jehovah's Witness, or you're a digital, you're on a website somewhere,
Oh yeah.
Scientology or whatever. You get the picture. They're alive and well, and just like we were talking about human trafficking, the cults are just as bad because they're abusing kids, they're sexually molesting kids, they're beating and women, and they're abusing
See,
labor, and
the
it's a
amount
mess.
of people that are comfortable
It's
being able to talk about this is next to nothing. Okay? And this is the issue, is because you're not able
yep.
to have a platform where you're able to have the conversation of this is a real thing. You know, I've had adult entertainers and people that are in the adult entertainment industry on this podcast. Clearly mhm,
You
because
had Pepper
they're
Cat
in an
on the other
industry,
night.
right, where
Yeah.
they've been mitigated, litigated. I mean, the list just goes on. Amounts of rules, regulations. It's fucking ridiculous. It's like, come on, people, we're adults, all right? We got needs. End of story. And yet, you have people that are trying to do good. They're trying to put out adult content because that's what they do. That's what they do, right? And then they have all of these things that are coming their way, and then they get the finger being pointed at them. Oh, you're the reason why there's human trafficking. Oh, you're the reason why there's No, they're not to blame.
No. Yeah. No. They got it backwards. This is finally so people who are on OnlyFans. And I'm not a fan of OnlyFans, and there's a whole story behind that. But that's because I have a personal connection story to it. But I
Mhm.
approve of Pepper. You
It's
had Pepper
amazing.
Cat on. I also had Pepper Cat on, and then I also had Colby Fawkes on. If you've never had Colby on, Dave, Colby is one of the biggest gay adult entertainers in Australia.
Okay.
He's on Podmatch. Go look him up. All right, go look up Colby Fawkes. You will get, not only will you get a big turnout from his, because he's got a huge following, but he's one of the biggest gay adult entertainers in OnlyFans. Him and Pepper and all of them, I think that they should go on OnlyFans and do whatever it is they do, because that's going to kill human trafficking. It's because they're doing their own thing. And I had
I've had
Vic
him on.
Vagina on, which I think he might have been on Podmatch too. You did have Vic on? He he he
Mhm.
he spilled the beans on the whole
Bad.
porn industry for the past 20 years. And yeah, so things are going to change over the next 50 years. You're going to see a lot of. I like the fact that the adult entertainer is now being able to control their own destiny, whereas years ago they were
Have to
being
do with
given
pimps,
drugs. They were
sleazy,
they were
sleazy
being
fucking
shot up with
pimps.
heroin.
The ones that are old as shit
Yep,
now living in
yep,
East
yep,
Bronx. Ugh, these are the worst
yep.
quality of people.
Yeah. If you go back and look at some of the porn stars from the 70s and 80s, and I can remember some of them, they have no money today. They're dying of cancer. It's horrible. So the stuff that they went through, some of the porn stars that I looked up to when I was in my 20s, 30s, and 40s, they're today they're not doing well. So, but today the porn stars that are doing on OnlyFans and have control of their own content will do much better, and it will, I think, will kill human trafficking at some point. Except that human trafficking is when you can kidnap children and sell the child to a predator, and that I don't see
No,
anywhere
but you know what? To the
going
point, like we were
anywhere
talking about
anytime
Pepper,
soon.
where being able to utilize technology, right? And she mentioned this on the podcast, where you don't know always who your clientele is, but being able to utilize technology like AI to make sure that they are
Correct.
of age. Because she said she did run into an instance where somebody was messaging back and forth. Turns out it was a 13-year-old kid. And she was able to figure this out with, I don't know exactly what technology or like
Right.
software that she's using, but that stuff is great for those independent creators, especially people that are, for example, doing independent filmmaking in that area. It allows you to be cautious and careful. And it's like, don't start blaming when you have people that are able to access these softwares and these tools so that they're able to mitigate all of these things. It's like, there's problems. Yes, there's solutions. Bingo, right here.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. The OnlyFans, I think, and OnlyFans is up for sale. I don't know if you heard that, but somebody that they're trying to sell it. I think more platforms like that need to be out there. It will. They just have to get a tighter control on, like you said, who's watching. Um, they'll figure all that stuff out at some point. They shut down Pornhub and a couple of the other big sites in a couple states because they weren't enforcing the underage verification process. So, but here's the problem that I have. When I was 13, 14, and 15, I was stealing Playboys out of mailboxes. So I would go because one day my father got I noticed he got a Playboy in his mailbox, and of course he took it out right away, but I noticed it. And I said to my friends, well, if my dad is getting it, then some of the other dads must be. So we knew what day, whenever day my dad got his Playboy, we would go around the neighborhood and steal some Playboys. The point is if you're 13, 14, and 15, you're going to find a way to find a naked lady or a naked man, whatever it is that you're looking for. You're going to find it. And yes, today the internet is more accessible to children than it ever was. I don't see anywhere. All you got to do is go on Google and type in naked cheerleaders, and you'll get all the naked cheerleaders you want. And yes, Google has a safe filter, but the kids today are smarter. They know how to turn it off. They know how to get
I've
around
noticed
this
this
stuff,
too because
so.
I know people that have kids, especially now, like about 4, 5, even 6 or 7. They're more aware. They are more aware, and they do ask more questions. And the thing is, like again, is to understand that they still are kids, but to be that person that says, "Oh, well, I can't tell you this because you're too young." I don't think that works with this generation. You have to be able to try to communicate with them. And
No.
if they're asking something that's a little bit more explicit, there are ways of explaining things to 7-year-olds.
And you need to explain it because they're going to get the wrong idea about how sex is performed in the bedroom. And and on my dating podcast, I'm hearing that men in their 20s in your age bracket do not know how to perform in the bedroom because they're watching
You are
porn too much,
preaching to
and they
the
think that's how
choir.
it's done.
Practically most of the guys that I've been with.
Yep.
I can't. I'm like in a hiatus right now. I'm just like, you know what? I like being single. I enjoy my time. I can't deal with this shit, man. It's like you're dealing with children. And the thing is that, like, I get it, I'm young, but I sometimes feel like I'm older than my age. It's like people my age, they don't have their life together. They don't know how to be sexual with another person. They don't understand being intimate doesn't mean pulling off my freaking pants.
They're too tied to their phones.
No.
People don't know how to talk face to face. They don't know how to sit down and have a conversation. Nobody can go to dinner and put the phones away and have a conversation. I know it's not like an old fogey talking like that, but this is the problem that we're having is that the cell phone is there's some singer, a pop singer, and I don't remember her name, but she's thinking about banning cell phones at one of her concerts because she says that it's going to not because she doesn't want people recording it. She says it ruins the experience of watching her concert because too many people are going to be chatting and WhatsApping and all that stuff, and she wants people to pay attention to her performance.
Taylor Swift.
I can't think of the woman's name, but no, but watch. Taylor will jump on the bandwagon. It was just on the morning news the other day. I can't think of what her name is.
I know. I'm trying to do this on my phone right over here. Ban phones at her concerts. Yeah, it's interesting because like I was I have a lot of the times where I bring filmmakers that are on this podcast. And one thing that's been going on, especially around like the indie filmmaking scene, is where there's been a lot of collaborating done virtually. So where you have studios, for example, in places like Canada that are collaborating with places that are in Europe. Sabrina Carpenter.
Sabrina Carpenter, right? I was just yeah. Now I don't know who that is. I've never heard of her. I never heard one of her songs, but I think she's got a great idea. And that's just me. I just think that the cell phones are ruining people's ability to talk to each other. Uh, I got a friend who's 30 something years old, and she goes out to dates with these guys. She calls me and confides in me, and she says these guys don't know how to talk. They don't know how to ask questions because all day long they're texting.
I'll tell you
So,
this. I had a little bit ago. I went out on a date with this guy, and we were talking, and I kind of briefly mentioned to him that I did podcasting, and he turns to me and he's like, "Man, I can now understand why you're a podcaster." And I said to him, I said, "Why?" He's like, you ask so many questions eloquently. I was just like, okay. I'm literally sitting here on a date with somebody and they're like literally telling me I'm having a podcast interview with them because they don't. It is. No, it is.
but that's a compliment. Take that as a compliment because because he recognized that you were able to communicate like a human where I don't have the numbers in front of me, but what I'm hearing is that the generations that we're raising today, even younger than you, the 15 to 16s, the 20s, they just don't know how to communicate. And because everything's done through even this whole idea of like sending you an image and then it disappears, like Snapchat or whatever. I don't know how that works either, but it's I don't know. I couldn't live without my cell phone, but I can live without my cell phone for an evening. Like if I was gonna go, and I do have a date tomorrow night, I can leave my cell phone home. I don't need it. I actually have the Apple Watch, which is basically got its own cell phone built into it, and I can sync it. So if anything really important, like one of my kids calls me, and I really got to, so I don't need to bring my cell phone on a date tomorrow night. I can leave it home. I don't need it. What's that important? Because I grew up 30 years ago. My wife and I would go out to dinner. We didn't have cell phones. I remember we would go out for dinner after my kids were born. We would have to go over to a payphone, call the babysitter and say, "Hey, is everything okay?" And when we, say, "Yeah," she said, "All the kids are in bed," and we'd go back to our dinner.
No, it's funny because I remember as a kid and just being able to like talk about virtual experiences, right? Like most of my family lives overseas, and being that my brother didn't even live here, I remember him as getting the phone card, calling the number, knowing we have a certain amount of minutes to call overseas, and then receiving maybe photo books or maybe some photos that he took and he shipped them over. And to that now being where I could literally go on WhatsApp and video call him, and I could see him in real time.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Well,
it is.
There are some great advantages to the cell phone as well. So yeah, to be able to talk to somebody halfway around the world for free on a little device or a tablet or even like this, like you and I are talking, you're
just about
2,000 miles away, whatever it is. And
it is.
So I think the technology is fantastic, but it's how we use it, when we use it, and when should we not be using it.
And I think that is kind of the future of how we see art, right? And even maybe the future of podcasting. It's not being able to fit into a box. It's the reality where there is no boxes. You are your own box. Like there is yours and there is mine. And that's okay.
Dave, let me ask you this. There's a lot of talk about YouTube, podcasters going onto YouTube. And people are sometimes ask me, well, are you going to transfer over to YouTube? And I have a YouTube channel, but I said no. Good. Because I said podcasting, its original idea behind that was that you could be driving a car, you could be, cleaning your house, whatever. You could put in earbuds and you can listen. You can multitask. You can listen to something for 45 minutes to an hour and do something else at the same time. When I go grocery food shopping on Saturdays for myself, there's a podcast that I listen to every Saturday morning, and because they drop the episode that I think that morning or Friday morning, and I don't have time to sit there and look at a YouTube video. to see two people talking. Why do I need to see two people talk? I can hear it in my earbuds. Like our conversation. I other than the point when we talked about the tattoos
No,
and
because
we
we got them like
and
here in
before with
full
the
scope
umbrellas,
right now. It's like, hey,
the
you
balloons
got to
came
see
down.
this visually.
Yeah, exactly. But I think in the long run, I think podcasting, if they put everything on video and take away the audio aspect of it, I think that the art of just listening is fantastic, and that in itself is creativity. You, if you, I don't, I was this wasn't my era, but back in the 1930s and 40s, they used to have radio where they would come on and tell stories, and people would hover around the radio. And if you remember the story about War of the Worlds, that was made up. That movie, The War of the Worlds, they made that up, and they got in trouble for it. But they did that live on a radio one night. People thought that the world was really coming to an end, but the whole thing was done on an audio platform, and I just think it's incredible how you can make people. So tell a story and makes people have to use their
My
imagination to
mom, it's
visualize
funny,
what's
like my
going
mom
on. So,
remembers, I think it was like Delilah in the 90s. Because my mom used to work in a woman's health club in New Jersey, and she used to drive back to New York. So there used to be a time, like to your point with audio, where you could put on this radio station. You got this soft speaking woman, and they put on like maybe Enya or I don't know, something like that on, and we had that. I remember that growing up as a kid, where you had all sorts of radio stations. You had for punk rock, you had for alternative, you had for indie. And you can kind of get into your own like vibe. And that's kind of where like the birth of podcasting kind of came into. It's like in a way this kind of did replace radio stations. Instead of getting like 105.6, 102.3, you got this.
yeah, well, I don't know. 102.5
Now
was
I'm
a
just throwing
radio
out numbers. Like
station
we
with
had ours
music,
in
but
New York.
that's a different
There was
whole
like
genre. But
99.1.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
of
used to listen to
course.
Howard Stern.
No,
I don't
he
know
is.
if
He's
you
still
remember
recording.
Howard Stern. I think he might still be around. Yeah, he's still recording. I used to love that because, especially driving into work in the morning. I'll tell you a funny story, and I could tell you this. I would 9 times out of 10 going to work
Mhm.
driving on the
Oh,
parkways in New
oh, I
York.
know.
I would have a hard on going into work because it's just. Well, he would have all these naked chicks in his studio, and that's all he talked about was like sex, 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 sex,
Especially
sex,
with the
and
bumper to
my
bumper,
mind
like
was
stop and
going
go traffic
crazy,
on
and I was
especially
like,
the
oh,
West
I
Side
gotta.
Parkway.
It helped so much to stop with the traffic, and it was just entertaining to listen
Oh
to because the
man,
way he did it was, of
I
course. Then he
know.
went when he went to Sirius XM, everything went televised now, and now you can watch him. But again, that was another example of like when it was better when there was no video. It was better because I had to use my imagination to, as he
I
described,
think
what was
that's also
happening
kind
in
of
the
the magic.
studio.
Like, look,
So
I do both video and audio, but there is there is something really touching, really something that you can connect to when you're, because I imagine the people that do listen to this podcast, which I have, some of these people are like are people that I'm close with, are artists, and sometimes they're people just unwinding and just just listening to that deep, thoughtful, maybe like learn something conversation. And you don't have to fixate on the visuals. Like there is an outlet for visuals, right? The outlet for visuals is like movies or, television. You have like TV shows and you have a lot of those great
right,
films. But that's not what we're doing here, man. We're not making movies. We're not making TV shows. We're just
no.
we're trying to get through the grind.
I'm just making audio to entertain
Oh yeah.
people and try to get information into their heads. There's no video. Am I recording in video? Yeah. And do I promote it in video? Yeah. But the ultimate final product
Keep
is
it old
strictly
school, keep it
audio.
raw.
That's the way I'm going to keep it
fresh, keep it swag. Damn,
Yep.
I just bumped up a couple of years right there.
Hey, listen, you got a good
Thank
podcast
you,
going,
man.
man. So keep going, keep doing what you're doing, and good luck in
The
where
end
you
of the year.
going?
So right
Colorado?
now
Do you
I'm
know
currently
when?
in vocational school. I'm doing this is wild. I'm doing a 12-week program with BMW that basically like compartmentalizes 3 years of dealership experience into those 12 weeks. Please, Lord, have mercy. So,
All right.
and then hopefully by the end of the year, I should be moving. You know, and the thing about it is like this podcast ain't changing. You know, maybe I might change a little bit, but nah, this is gonna stay
Good.
This
Don't.
might change.
No, I checked you out. You got over 200 episodes. Keep going.
Yeah.
You know what? You know Alex Sanfilippo. If he tells you if you have over, I think it was if you ever make it past 10 or 20 or 30 episodes, you're on your way. You're just gonna hang in there. And then I think the next milestone is 100. And you and I are both well over 200 episodes. So just hang in there and.
Oh, I will. I mean, listen, man,
take
we
it with you
are
to
what they
Colorado.
call official
Absolutely.
indie podcasters, and I gotta say, like, we're gonna keep going. You know, unless like I get hit by a bus or something. But this is real every single week. I gotta ask you, because we've been talking about your podcast, been talking about your work. Where can these people find your podcast? You got a website, your social media, all that jazz. Let's get in there.
Yeah. So it. Okay, so the easiest way to find me, it's going to sound confusing. It's just look up Anonymous Andrew. That's my brand. I started this podcast 3 years ago as the Anonymous Andrew podcast, but people told me nobody knows what it's about. And it was about dating and relationships and blah, blah, blah. So I've changed the name of the podcast to Digital Dating. Along the way, I opened up 2 other podcasts. One's called The Weekend Rant, and one's called The Cultimatum, just like it sounds. Cultmatium, Cultimatum. And that's about cults. But they're all under the Anonymous Andrew Podcast Studio brand. So I have an LLC that I formed, and it's the Anonymous Andrew Podcast Studios. And they produce Digital Dating, Cultimatum, and I do something called The Weekend Rant. And on social media, everything is at Anonymous Andrew Podcast. So it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all Anonymous Andrew Podcast. And all you got to do is type it in Google, and I'll pop up everywhere.
There's links in the description box, obviously, and then Substack. Yeah. And then
I
for
can
Substack,
send you all
I
that.
usually will put a link. I'm going to put one for your website, so they'll be able to find it. So anybody's got an excuse like, oh, I can't find it. It's in the freaking description, people.
Yeah, I know. But people get lazy. They don't look, and I don't mean to offend the audience, but people look in the show description. We put it in there for you so you can catch all of the link, everything that we talk about, the guests and
everything.
All of that is in the
Dump it in there in that giant ass box. Well, listen, Anonymous Andrew, I gotta say, man, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I think we covered a lot of shit.
Yeah, likewise.
Like,
I enjoyed this.
Went down human trafficking. Woo!
We did.
Get our feet wet. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things I cover.
I love it.
Yeah, somehow I made it in there. So, David, I wish you good luck on your journey in Colorado and your auto, and we'll stay in touch. And David and I belong to Podmatch, which is a podcasting community.
Yeah.
I'm so tired.
But yeah, seriously, we're on Podmatch. It's literally, you can search it up online. You can find both of our profiles on there. And of course, guys, if you want to check out more of Lost, you can find us everywhere at Lost Pod. So, with that, catch. Peace out.